Praise Boolah Jesus. The O-face worked. Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a nice little late, actually, Monday morning over here from, once again, a dark and frigid Helsinki, Finland. Getting a little bit warmer now, so it's good for me because I like to be right around the 0 degrees Celsius mark. Anyways, with that said, I do want to wish you the best and the happiest. We actually have plenty to talk about today as Bitcoin and Ethereum, more importantly, taking the upside route that we spoke about yesterday, getting important closures above important levels, and now the next sort of trade ideas initiated. With that said, plenty to talk about. So let's put the folks over here in the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net. And what do we see? We see continuation of the Bitcoin dominance falling here. Sorry, my speech is all fucked up in the morning, apparently. And more importantly, with that, we are seeing alts absolutely outpace Bitcoin on this next breakout. And Bitcoin still actually caught within its own range, while the altcoins actually do, well, technically follow, because technically speaking, we did see Bitcoin past its prior all-time highs ages ago, a couple months ago. Now we're seeing the rest of the altcoin market kind of follow on top of that. So we are seeing rotations going on with this market. It appears that Mr. Ethereum, Mr. Buteral, leading the charge right now. So keep an eye on that, and will be a big focus of today's video as well. Fear and Greedy Index also popping up 4 points from a 70 to a 74. So it's all good. We're greedy once again. And on top of that, open interest for Bitcoin hanging around 4.85 billion. So we did see about 100 million added from yesterday to today. More importantly, when we go into actually look at Bitcoin, it's going to play into the narrative of, well, I'll just spoil the surprise, a little bit of reaccumulation going on right now, actually, in fact, getting incredibly obvious. Let's go into the data tab, see if there's any canaries in this coal mine, see if they got anything to tell us today. And funny rate popping up a little bit right there, but when we actually dig into the minutia, really not anything too concerning. We do see FTX way the fuck out there, but they're always way the fuck out there and kind of an outlier in this sense. So no, I do not consider this anything concerning as of right now. Still, most exchanges hanging around the 0.01% region, so that is all good in the hood. Anyways, with that said, I don't see anything. Nothing else here is really sticking out like a sore thumb right now. So with that said, we're going to go into the actual price action charts themselves. We'll start with Ethereum today, because Ethereum is leading the market right now. And what do we see on the weekly closure? Critical closure above the topside trend band. So how do I interpret this? I interpret this as trend still in continuation mode. Obviously, this is coming on top of new all-time highs being printed. So now we're in price discovery plus trending above the topside trend bands. And I'd look for something, essentially Bitcoin-esque after essentially getting our first weekly closure on new all-time highs. Our closing price is $13.94.5. And this is closing price of $13.49.70. So very, 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 very close there. But yes, indeed, we do have new all-time highs. And more importantly, I just want to show you what happened when Bitcoin actually started doing the same thing. When Bitcoin was right below 20,000, right around here, you see a very, 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 very similar response as Bitcoin does kind of trudge along the topside Toronto band. But once it actually gets that next closure above on new all-time highs, which actually happened right here, that was when the party began, and we did see about basically 100x from that level. I mean, that was about $19,000. Our current highest price is about $42,000. It's a little bit over 100% move right there. So I would actually be looking for Ethereum to really get going here over the next few weeks. I know that does sound crazy, but here's the thing. Keep in mind, Ethereum has one major thing to be aware of right now, and this I really do think is important to kind of reflect upon. We're going to see futures debut for CME for Ethereum on February the 8th, I believe it is. Let me just double check over here. Okay, so that would be not next, but after next Monday, February 8th, 2 Mondays from now. Then yes, Ethereum futures will be up, or maybe it's actually the 6th, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's around that date. It's within the next couple of weeks, basically. And more importantly, with that, I would be looking for a similar response to what we saw with Bitcoin when it had its CME futures debut, which, well, look away, Boolahs. Close your eyes. Red dildos are coming, my friends. And that was routing over here. Now, technically speaking, it was in early December, and Bitcoin actually did make new all-time highs after the official debut, but But as you can see, within the next couple weeks, that was your next high for the next few years. Am I going to say the same thing about Ethereum right here? No, I'm not, because in this segment over here for Bitcoin was clearly the leader, clearly the one coin to rule them all. And now we do see that the market is maturing, and we do see that there is rotations going on. And what could happen, or at least what the Boo laws would want to happen here, is they want to see a rotational market emerge from a read like this, meaning that if Ethereum does come down in the same way that Bitcoin is playing out a nice consolidation on the $31,000 to $40,000 level right here, we want to see Ethereum do something similar, and then someone else take the reins, perhaps Bitcoin, as that would be that would be maybe warranted, seeing as it's been consolidating for the last what is this, like 2-3 weeks now? Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3 working on week number 4, so this is starting to get a little bit more mature as far as the consolidation goes. But I would keep that in the back of my mind's eye, because that is about 2 weeks away, and that will be a very, 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 very big event. Mostly because there's going to be a lot of liquidity for for the big boys to kind of sell into, as a lot of people, retailers or not, think that just getting on CME is like a bullish event. It means nothing. It's just another place to sell whatever asset that you're trading. Yes, there is adoption and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I believe that we are in the phase with the whole cryptocurrency market where we're no longer looking for like very remedial adoption like that. You want to see real adoption. You want to see like Bitcoin actually being used for things, Ethereum actually being used for things, and they are actually very, very slowly, but it is happening as the infrastructure gets built. But we're kind of past the point of rebranding and pump it up, baby. Like it was in 2017. I don't think that's what we're looking at anymore. This is no longer a bit of a secret in the crypto space. This is this is out there in the world, and I think most people are aware of it. Whether they believe in it or not, that's another question, but they are aware of it. It's no longer, under the stealth phase. Anyways, with that said, in Ethereum, what do we see right here on the daily? We do see that it's going to have a chance to close above the topside Toronto band once again today. And in fact, do we have new closing highs on this? We do have new closing highs on a daily, so very, very nice right there. I'd say that, it's more or less a formality right here. We did identify this as a likely potential yesterday, but here's what I want to see continue from this point on. I want to see both the daily MACD have an official cross the upside. If that happens alongside a closure above the topside Toronto band, which is currently 1432 in some odd change, which we're currently at right now, I'd be very, 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 very confident with looking for not just new all-time highs, but likely a trending move towards 1,800 or 2,000 bucks. On top of that, we do see that the ADX DMI is starting to print its own signal as well that we were speaking about yesterday, and this is kind of the big one as well. We see the DMI plus dominate, ADX is above the threshold. All is good in the hood right there as well, and I'm using 24 for the threshold because I don't think you need to be too conservative. I also don't think that you need to be too aggressive right here. So that kind of cuts it right in the middle, like a good old Goldilocks indicator right now. Anyways, moving on to the 2-day and 3-day, do we see anything of particular note? Yeah, 2-day, we do see that the DMI plus starting to print another signal as the ADX once again strengthens. Are we closing this one today? We are not. No, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That's right. The daily, 2-day, 3-day, and weekly all closed yesterday, so none of these are going to be closing today. But more importantly, this would be suggesting a topside target at around 1,600, which actually would line up with one of the fib extensions I believe that we did put on the lower time frames yesterday, the week prior essentially. What about the 3-day? Same thing, gonna have a chance to trend above the topside Toronto band here as well. Same thing going on DMI ADX. I'm liking what I'm liking what I'm seeing across the board. To me, this is a clear breakout move, and we're very likely to see continuation probably up until that event date, or maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. People are more aware of it now, and I guess we'll just have to see it in motion. Now let's follow that up with Bitcoin and see how Bitcoin's doing. More or less just holding the range still between 30 and 40,000 bucks. Do we see anything on the? Yes, we do. Okay, so this is very, very interesting. We're starting to really see the MACD histogram on the daily start to loosen its grip, as essentially Bitcoin just creates a range between 31,000 and 40,000. Now that does sound humongous, yes, but when you put it in perspective and think about it in percentage wise, it's really it's within the context of Bitcoin's history essentially. And more importantly, we do see that the DMI plus ADX, the DMI ADX right here is doing exactly what we said yesterday. And I don't want to use that terminology because I want to get away from like predictive type bullshit. No, it's all about biases and having statistics on your side. But in this case right here, what did we see, or what were we looking for yesterday? We said, hey, this signal right here for the DMI minus, it's probably going to be a fake signal. And the reason why I said that is because, well, looking at price action just was not following through with that, not doing what you would expect. And more importantly, this is your fake out area for the ADX if that is going to happen. And that's, well, pretty much what's happening right now. Does this imply a counter move on the other side? It does not, no, but it does imply that we're probably going to go back down here, and then the DMI plus going to have a chance to actually get dominant itself. And if that happens alongside the ADX strengthening, then yes, we'll see probably, you know, Bitcoin essentially be pulled up by Ethereum, and that's at the point where I'd really start to target the $40,000 level once again. And we'll talk about the lower term timeframes where that becomes relevant as well, because there's actually a lot more interesting things going on right there right now. And also the 12-hour I think is incredibly interesting right here. We did identify regular bullish divergence coming in from these last few lows right here on MACD histogram. It was not present on the RSI, which made me a little bit apprehensive about it. But looking at structure right here, I did say that, you know, it was more or less likely to play, and we do see that the MACD is actually about to cross the upside once again. If that happens alongside a 12-hour closure above this 9 exponential moving average, that would be a very good sign that we're going to see at the very least 35,500 and probably even 37,500, and that can drive targets higher. Again, DMI and ADX right here doing something very, 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 very similar to what we saw on the daily, so it's going to have a chance as well. And I really, really like this read. You know, if I had to call right now, do I think that Bitcoin's going to follow through with Ethereum? Yeah, I think it's a more of a formality right now, just because we're seeing Ethereum take the spotlight for a little bit, which is good. We have a more or less healthy market. It's more robust when you have rotations going on like that. That's actually how the stock market typically works. Is the rotational markets allow it to just basically go up, you know, amongst the whole in what almost can seem like a straight line. If I can show you over here just really, really quick. I know this is kind of boring for some people out there, but you know, this is essentially your chart. It's just a number go up. If you want a fucking number go up chart, this would be it, right? Ever since 2008, 2009, and that's when your rotational markets really started to get going. So anytime, you know, what will typically happen is they'll come in and like crush one market. Maybe they'll come in and crush like the techs one day, but everything else just can be fucking up, you know. So it makes it look like something's going on, but you know, at the end of the day, it all kind of it all just basically goes into like a summation index. So that's why I actually do like the McKellen oscillator if you are going to trade traditional markets indices, as it's really, 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 really useful for judging that. Anyway, it's another topic for another time, for another video perhaps. Let's see. Let's go back on over here. Okay, we spoke about that. What about the 4 hour? Is there anything here? Now let's go over to our regular charts and talk about the lower term timeframes. So putting on the drawing tools, we did see another move back down to the blue box on the lower term timeframes. I didn't really have like a bias yesterday if that was going to happen or not, but just the bias is that if it did come back down to this level, I would be looking for a bounce off of it based off of the fact that HVP was still in a contraction phase and likely to play out a range. And guess what? That is what we got right here. Again, not saying these things sound arrogant, but saying these things so that people who have been watching these videos can follow up on them and see how they respond over time, because, well, I mean, the market doesn't happen in one fucking dildo, right? You know, it happens in multiple dildos, in fact. And looking at this right here, it's looking very obvious to me that Bitcoin is going to probably pop back up above this level. Now, technically speaking, do I want to see a closure above this level first? That being 33,750, we'll call it. Yes, I do. Or a wick higher than this right here, which we might have actually already gotten, 835 versus 850. Let's see what Stamp has. Stamp has 791 versus 864. So no, Stamp does not have it. And what about GDAX? GDAX would be high 867 versus 793. So no. So BitMEX is the odd man out. And in this case, I would say that that trade is still available, but I want to see it on GDAX or Coinbase and Bitstamp. And then yes, I'd extend moves, you know, another $2,000 up to about 35,500. Could there be a short-term pullback from that region? Maybe pop back down to like 34, possibly yes. But more importantly, I highly doubt things stop there. Realistically, your next real resistance is going to be right around here at about 37,500. But then you have to keep in mind, what is that going to produce if Bitcoin does start to get back above that level? Well, that's going to have carry-on features. That's going to have continuation features, basically from the daily, as we do see it get back above the 21 exponential moving average right here, really solidifying this, as we spoke about at the beginning of this video, as reaccumulation, as open interest does get built up off the bottom side of this formation. So putting everything together, I do think that, again, it's a bit of formality here, but if I had to call it right now, Bitcoin very likely does head back up, probably back up to $40,000. And guess what? We're also going to see daily momentum also just pop back up too if that condition is met. Not even above 35,500, but actually above 33,900, which Bitcoin's about 500 bucks below right now. So if Bitcoin takes out that interim short-term resistance, again, 33,750 or just wicks higher than what we saw on those two exchanges, then I would be looking for continuation, very likely not just up to 37,500, but 40,000 overall. Probably takes a few days, and then I don't know, does it print new all-time highs after that? Probably if I had to guess. Anyways, as it stands right now, let's go over to the 12-hour, see what this one's doing. 12-hour Stokes are nice and erect, and will be remaining erect as long as we are closed above 32,500. What's very interesting about this is that it is going to have a chance to break this trend line from that we identified yesterday and the day prior. So that would be above the bearish control zone as well. So that would be actually quite the thing if it can actually fully do that, but can be confirmed as soon as the next closure. Again, anywhere above the 21 here would be good enough for me, and that's just below 40,000 bucks. 12-hour RSI very clearly bouncing off the the bearish control zone right there. Very clearly constructive over the long term. You know, anytime that we've tested in this region, it has been a buy essentially, and I still like this. Short term, I shouldn't say certainly up, but very likely up. We'll put it that way. Very fucking likely up. How about that? Anyways, what do we see on the very low term time frames? Because we haven't really gone over them just yet. Yeah, we do see 4-hour Stokes popping back around. They will officially cross back onto the upside with any sort of closure above 33,100, of which we are currently about 300 bucks cleanly above that right now, with a few hours left to go, I'd imagine. But keep in mind that there is a trend line right here guarding against the edge of the bullish control zone. But technically speaking, or typically speaking, I should say, whenever you do see something like this where it rejects and then pops back up to test it again, it very rarely rejects it again. So to me, just by crossing back onto the upside in this region right here probably does indicate, you know, it actually wants to take that area out. And what would that imply? That would imply that we actually close above this area right here. And guess what? That would imply, you know, the short-term moves, which then carries on into the 12-hour, in the daily, and realistically, you know, start looking back around here. And this is coming on declining volatility. So remember, we do that was the whole bias yesterday, why I said, you know, could we test back down to 30,800 or wherever this blue box is? Yes. Would I be looking for a bounce off that region? Absolutely yes. Well, not absolutely, but very likely yes is the proper way to exclaim that. 4-hour Jewel is in a bullish posturing, but not really a signal. And 4-hour RSI is giving you counter signals every which way that you look, but technically speaking, they both already played out. Moving on to the 3-hour, what do we see right here? We do see 3-hour Stokes already leading, and we do see that they're popping back up as long as we're staying above 32,128. So building upon, and we do see that the 3 and 4-hour are in unison with each other. 3-hour Jewel giving you a little bit more of an obvious potential signal right there, although I really do not like those signals on a Monday or weekend. Looking at the 3-hour RSI, looks good for some short term. A little bit of an inverted head and shoulders right here, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Yes, I do look at head and shoulders on RSI more than I do on price action. I really don't care about them on price action. RSI, however, can be very powerful, and in this case, yep, that would be just essentially a reaccumulation phase right here off of that short-term reversal. Anyways, moving on to the buy hourly, what do we see? Same shit. As long as we're above 31,500, momentum remains the upside. You can already visualize a trend line right there and back into the bullish control zone. Very nice, very good. And this is going to come on expanding historical volatility percentile. Potentially did come down all the way to a snake eyes over here at a fucking zero read multiple times in a row. And that does imply that if we do break above this level, it is going to be, you know, likely a nice move. Again, 35,500 would be my first target, and you know, maybe a short-term pullback there, but ultimately 37,500 would be the next like real target. And based off the daily, you know, while things probably do play down a little bit from there, I would ultimately be looking for things to crawl back up to the $40,000 level. And probably beyond, if that were to be met. So there you go. Moon boy time, baby. I'm a fucking moon boy. Just Photoshop one of these girthy red dildos in front of my face. Do the old O face. Fucking so dumb. It's actually really fun, but it's also really fucking dumb too. I mean, Jesus Christ. And again, like, I feel like I always have to repeat this. I know a lot of these guys who actually do this. I've spoken with them many times, and I like them. I really like them as people. But you can't fucking deny that it's hilarious that they're, you know, sitting there with their goddamn phones going like, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Mom, don't open that fucking door. I'm doing O faces again. I'm trying to get famous on YouTube. Mom, what do you mean you have chicken tendies for me? Fuck. All right, come in, bitch. Sorry, Mom, I love you. Carl. No, just kidding. In this video, my O-face will bring... Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear fucking Lord. All right. Fair enough. Oh, okay. All right. So that's enough for me today. Apologies to anyone who's offended out there, of course. And hourly, what do we see? Hourly Stokes heading up as long as we're above 33,150. So all lower term timeframes are in concert right now. I still want to see that condition met, either a closure above the last high. Could we use a 2 hour here? Yes, we could use a 2 hour. That would be 33,700, we'll call it, or a wick higher, but not on BitMexico. It's GDAX and Stamp that we want to be looking at right now. And if that does get met, I'll be targeting these regions back up here. Now, again, could it be that Bitcoin actually does peak it up? I don't think it's very likely, but if it did, the same area to the downside is still very much relevant. If Bitcoin does break below 30,500, we'll call it, on a 4 hour closure, especially, I'm going to get bearish for a move down to 23 to 24,000 bucks. But until that happens, if I get one more fucking message, but Krown, what about the 21 on the weekly? We must test. No, it just offers up an edge if price action tests it. For the love of fucking God, understand, this is not a goddamn crystal ball. It just tells you where you have an edge. That's it. Holy shit. It's absolutely fascinating to me to see this. But I also have to remind myself that I was, doing the same thing when I first started too. It's like you think that TA or trading is about, like, I don't know, just always being in a fucking trade and knowing where price action is going to be. It's like you can't know. You can only come up with probabilities. That's all. That's it. And that's all you need to do. Should be rather... should be like, what's it called? Reassuring or relaxing. It's like, that's all you can do. That's all they can be. Anyways, should we go check out Ethereum on the lower term timeframes as well? Maybe. Where is this piece of highly esteemed technology that will be getting the most bullish event possible? There we go. 1435. Looking pretty good here. Looking pretty good. 4 hour momentum will remain to the upside as long as you're above 1467. Oh, actually, so it needs to start trending right now. Let's actually see. Where was my next targets for Ethereum, actually? Which chart was I using? Was it this one? Let's see. Yeah, the 4 hour looks very good here. Any sort of a closure here or higher in the next 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I'd be looking for the next upside target. There we go. That's it. Okay, so... Okay, nice. Actually, this is working very well. We do have a pattern target heading up to just above 1600. That's also a 2-spot extension as well. So I'd be looking for a short-term move to 1600, actually, as long as that condition is being met with the 4 hour trending above. And realistically, do I ever see things like actually reverse at the 2-spot extension? No, I don't. Extremely rarely. I can't even recall the last time that I've actually even seen that. 414 and 618 right here will be of interest, and that's all the way around 1800. Do I think that Ethereum's just going to gun for 2,000 just by the narrative of this market? Yeah, probably. Probably does. Anyways, where and what was the chart that I was using over here on these regular ones? Was it this one? Was it this one? Yes, it was. Okay, yeah. And this was an extension taken out of the last consolidation phase. We did something similar for Bitcoin below its 20,000 consolidation phase, and it actually worked incredibly well. So I suspect that this one will also be of particular interest. You could say that we've already tested the 414, so I'd be looking for a bit of a range to play between the 272 and the 414, and that's basically your 1430 number and your 1500 number, we'll call it. But ultimately, these, again, are not really stopping points. The 414 can be a bit of a trappy point sometimes, but coming back up to retest it multiple times is not indicative of a trap. Where would be my indication of something gone wrong in Ethereum now? Well, if you're using a 4 hour, it would be right here. Anywhere below 1350. Yes, we could talk about problems. Maybe try to set another higher low somewhere around this region right here. But we do have a pattern of reaccumulation in this ascending triangle, and we can make something like this, which I imagine would point up somewhere towards that. Let's see, what would that level be? Yeah, about 1700 actually, depending upon where you take that breakout from. If you take it from here, yeah, this would be the more aggressive way, but it does line up with more things, so that's probably the right way to do it. Then 1700 would be the next target if that actually does indeed happen, which it looks pretty fucking likely right now. 12 hour, good. Daily, good. It's probably gonna be good. Anyways, let's go check out traditional markets for a second here. We'll follow them up a little bit later today. why does this not look like it's actually okay? It certainly is moving. Yeah, new all-time highs. We exactly as predicted today. But well, we did have an all-time high bias here. Still be looking at 13,600 for the next short-term pivot. But again, ultimately here, having a last weekly doodle like this is not really indicative of a top being put in anytime soon. Well, I do think that maybe it plays down a little bit, maybe as an initial sell-off from 13,600. It probably does gun for 13,800, and probably just by the narrative of this market, 14 or 15,000 bucks would actually be, or what is that, 15? That is 15,000. Oh my god. It's getting crazy, man. It's doing a Bitcoin move. It's fucking insane. What about SPY futures? Same shit. 38.75 is still my next target on this one. Yes, I do still think that it gets hit. Yes, I still do think that it probably does overshoot it as well over time to basically 4,000, we'll call it. Let's go see. Should I even talk about Link? Jesus. This could be bad. Link is I'm bullish on Link for new all-time highs as long as it's trending above the topside Toronto band. And what do you know? Just got a clean closure above it. Same thing on the 3-day right here as well. Looks pretty damn good. Still have the same targets for it, which would be $28.50 as the next one, and then 31 or 32 I think was the one after that. Same shit basically. Let's see. What about Theta? What about this thing? Up. It's gonna retest. It's gonna very likely retest high, 7,500. Dot did retest its all-time high as we spoke about at the end of last week. Maybe a short-term pullback here, back down to like 51,000 satoshis, but ultimately I do think that this one makes new all-time highs from this region. So if it does pull back, I look at that as an opportunity. What about Ethereum versus Bitcoin? Yeah, that's kind of like there we go. Hey, and there's your move above 4 million satoshis that we spoke about. Holy shit, powerful, girthy green dildos right there. Now, it is at the 200 simple right now. Do I put a lot of weight on this in its current posturing? Actually, no. Although I do think that it probably will have a short-term pullback, probably back down to like 3.8 million. But again, I would look at that as an opportunity. I don't look at this as like an actual stopping point. Weekly Stokes, powerful and erect as all hell. Weekly RSI really tells a story here, though. This is a really, really strong read. Very, 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 very strong read. So ultimately... hold on to your damn butyrol, son. 6 million is not out of the question over the next few months. Then again, that event, though, it does make me a little bit concerned. So you know what? Maybe I shouldn't get... maybe I should really hold off on like the full-on fucking green dildo party until that actually happens, because I want to see if there's signs of reversal in progress. What about Litecoin really quick? Kind of following the rest of the market, certainly not leading, but probably does pop back up to the highs at 171. Oh, good morning, Mrs. Pink. How you doing? The mermaid is here. Anyways, what else do we have? Okay, that's enough. Enough shitcoins. I'm only gonna get more fucking messages about dumbass shitcoins if I talk about them more. All right. Let's see, what is Caretaker saying right now? He's showing a short-term strong rising uptrend. I'd happen to agree with that. What about the daily right here? This one's been consolidated for so long, it actually probably is about the same level. And yep, okay, 20 simple, big pivot on the daily right here, 36,000 bucks. Top side, just above that, or just around our prior all-time high as well. Fair enough. All right, so good. We are in unison, Mr. Caretaker. I like it. I like it a lot. Although his speaking a little bit more towards a greater formation right now, but all good. I should say that there are a few concerning things on Bitcoin here. Bitcoin on the weekly is seeing momentum also has turned back down. Now we do have this trend line coming in all the way from our lows in April and September. That was your coronavirus dump lows, and then your $10,000 low right here. And on a weekly, these are really the last major lows that we've actually seen. Everything else continuation, basically. I'm talking about this one and this one. So major dump low, reaccumulation low. We haven't really had a chance to do anything other than that on a weekly, that is, until that time. Now, there is one major thing that is building on the weekly that I'm a little bit concerned about. Weekly RSI, if it does start to put another high somewhere around this area right here, that would be quite nasty. But we're well and far away from that right now. Let's see what the 3-day looks like, for example. Yeah, 3-day, I'm really just not bearish on price action as long as we're above the last, or just basically the 21 right here. The last low looks good to me as a nice little pivot point. I think that's really all that I want to say for today, though. I don't want to get too crazy with this one, just because I think things are more or less simple today. If I'm looking at CMEs, again, obvious, or a lot more fucking obvious than what I'd be looking at on spot price action charts. To me, this looks quite obvious. It wants to pop back up and test around above $35,000. We do see that momentum oscillators will follow through. Actually, is only if it closes above $37,000. So do keep an eye on that. It's probably not happening today, but is of interest over the next few days here. And 12 hours, one that I'll be watching right now for CMEs, will cross back onto the upside with any sort of a closure above 32,600. Currently trading 33,440 with 5.5 hours about to go until closure on this one. And if that condition is met, I'd look for a move up to about 37,500. So I think this would be a good time for me to wrap this whole kid and caboodle up. What is that saying from? I don't know. Maybe Old Western. Maybe Arthur's been rubbing off on me. Good times. Gotta tell you, man, this Sekiro game is kicking my fucking ass, though. It's fun as hell, man. Jesus Christ. I want to become a professional gamer, actually, one day. That'd be great. Someone was in my stream the other day saying, Krown, I want to become a professional trader. I'm currently a professional esports player. I'm like, I want to do the opposite. I want to go in your direction. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool endeavor. It's like really fucking competitive too. Like, it's awesome. It's like an actual viable path nowadays. Okay, so let's actually start this one off with Ethereum. Yeah, there we go. And is this my chart with? No, it is not my chart with the extensions. Come on, show it to me, you dirty Ethereum butyrol motherfucker, you. All right, we can just do it on the other charts. Okay, cool. Let's start off with the weekly. All right, let's wrap this bitch up. Ethereum, once again, the star of the show, as it does close above the topside Toronto band, as we spoke about over the last few weeks, really. And I am looking at this as a clear breakout move to blue sky potential, as we do see it closing on new all-time highs for the weekly on all major exchanges as of yesterday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which I want to remind myself, kind of Bitcoin had a very similar reaction or similar response below its prior all-time high in 2017 at that $20,000 level. You do see a bit of a stutter step alongside the topside Toronto band. Once we get that first closure above, boom, massive girthy green dildo party to the skies as everyone celebrates. So with that in mind, would I be looking for Ethereum to essentially melt up a bit? Yes, probably into its next event, which is CME Futures debut in a couple weeks here. I believe it's actually 2 weeks to the day, which would be somewhere around like February 8th, give or take. For some reason, I have February 6th and February 8th in my mind, but I believe it's February 8th actually. Anyways, with that said, probably bullish until then, and I'm certainly bullish as long as we are trending above the topside Toronto band on the weekly for new all-time highs to our next major targets, which would be based off of my charts over here. If we can pull them up, there we go. And let me just put on a higher term time frames right here as well. And whoops, wrong chart. Okay, let me just find which one it is. Where are you? There you are. Found you. All right, there it is. So we did hit the first extension, the 414, kind of your trap area, typically speaking, at about 1485 region, and sold off initially from that region. However, if it does close anywhere above the 272, I'd just essentially be looking for a range be created between about 1435 and 1485 region, with ultimately looking a little bit higher, as this is a reaccumulation phase right here. This is an ascending triangle. Volume signature does match up, shape does match up, size, smell, taste all matches up, and that does have a pattern target towards 1700 about, which is also confluent with the 2-spot extension. Again, realistically, I almost never see the 2-spot extension produce a reversal. It's a 414 and the 618 in this case that can have that potential, and that's more or less between 1,800 and 2,000 bucks. Do I think that Ethereum just pops back up there by the nature of it? Probably yes. We are playing out that same hidden bullish divergence that we identified the other day, and that is also going to lead into potentially another momentum oscillator across the upside. Oh, kitchen time, baby! You said that you missed it. Well, here you go again, motherfuckers. Open up your fucking forks. How about that? Anyways, 1420. If Ethereum does close above there by end of day, then I'd essentially be looking for continuation. I essentially am looking for continuation on Ethereum. Through these levels right here. 12-hour Stokes also rather powerful as well. Anyways, how does that measure up with Bitcoin? Bitcoin more or less hanging on to the lows as Ethereum does lead. So let's go back onto it over here. Although I do think that Bitcoin is kind of turning around and being led by Ethereum. But what I really want to see is one of two things to get this next short-term, medium-term move, which can have more long-term implications, which would be either a 4-hour closure or a 2-hour closure above this prior high right here, which is about 33,600, or a wick higher. But but not on Mexico because that one's the odd man out. GDAX or Coinbase, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and Stamp, if they can wick higher, and that's about 864 spot 85 on Stamp, then yes, I would be looking for a quick move to about 35,500 and maybe a short pullback from 35,500. But ultimately, I do not think that things would stop there. We'd very likely see the next leap up to about 37,500. So that would be the real target, so to speak. And more importantly, that would have more long-term implications because if the daily closes above, as you can see, about 34,000 bucks, we will see daily momentum also shift back up as well. And that would imply that we're probably going to see a retest of the $40,000 level and probably beyond. And again, by the narrative of this market, does that mean that we're probably going to see new all-time highs for Bitcoin if that condition is met? If that condition is met, probably yes. At the same point in time, is the downside still available? I don't think it's very likely right here, as we do see 4-hour momentum oscillators having a chance to shift back up once again and be in line with the 3, 2, and 1 as we looked at earlier. As long as we close above 33,100, which currently about $200 above at this moment in time, then yes, I would essentially be looking for the upside. But the same sort of downside potential is what we've been talking about over the last few weeks now, and that would be with a 4-hour closure below about 30,500. I would essentially be targeting 23 to 24,000 bucks. Do I think that that's what's happening here? No. Is it still a possibility? Yes, as long as we're kind of hanging around this region. But matching this up with the open interest reads that we looked at earlier, and just matching this up with structure and the rest of the crypto market. Do I think that that's what's happening? No, I think that this is very obviously reaccumulation right now, and we're probably going to see, a move towards 37,500, and that has more downstream implications. So with that said, I want to wish you the best. Be on Twitch a little bit later today. I salute you, and until next time.